We had a brief chat earlier about the title race, but it's drop points again for Arsenal, isn't it? At Stamford Bridge, and Manchester City losing again as well. This time at Brighton, even though they had led in the game, and Liverpool, who are in the middle of that run that people were looking at and going, "Here we go. This is where Arne Slot gets tested." After a fairly comfortable start, and they lost to Forest at home, and thought, "Oh, maybe some of these games are going to be quite tricky." We're in the middle of that run right now, and they are superb, and they are flying at the top of the league. Are we now looking at a Liverpool side where, in terms of the title, it's theirs to lose?
I think that's an interesting way to look at it, and I cannot believe what's happened. It's pulsating, isn't it? Like the title race. You know, when people talk about football and what it means to them and why, over 1 million people every weekend follow football up and down the country, it's this, isn't it? Football's got completely unrivaled. It's completely unmatched. And this Premier League title race is electrifying. I think now that, look, my tip at the beginning of the season, my prediction, was that Arsenal would win the league. I felt like Mikel Arteta had been building and building to this crescendo. He was going to launch this season into a serious and sustained bid for the Premier League title. I know it's only 11 games in, and changing a prediction this early may look hypocritical to some. I just don't think they can win it from here. I really don't.
Well, they're already done in the title race, Arsenal.
I'm inclined to say that they are. I know. I just think that it's such fine margins. They're 9 points behind Liverpool. So when you think that there's about 81 points to play for. Mm-hmm. They need a 9-point swing. That's 3 wins, 3 defeats for Liverpool.
Well, they'd have to beat Liverpool as well, surely.
At Anfield. At Anfield. And that's assuming that Arsenal win their next game. I do think, look, me saying that Arsenal can't win the league by no means that they can't win the league. I just feel like the performances that they're putting in, the stagnant performances that they're putting in, they don't look as free-flowing and creative as they were, in previous seasons. For example, last season. Look at certain individuals. Look at the player that Leandro Trossard was last season. I thought that he was standout, excellent, clutch, everything that they needed him to be. This season, he's got himself sent off against Man City. He's got William Saliba sent off at Bournemouth. He's missed in sitter after sitter. They're just not the team.
To be fair though, Martin Odegaard's been out for a bit. He is such a key player, and I think it was a bit of a mistake in the summer to let Fabio Vieira go and Emil Smith-Rowe go, because you don't have a player, and we've seen this in so many games, who can naturally fit into that position. I think that's hurt Arsenal in more ways than potentially they were expecting. The other thing with Arsenal is, actually, when you look at their start to this season, as much as we've just said Liverpool's was actually quite kind in terms of the teams that they played, they lost to Forest, and what's been impressive about Liverpool and unexpected in some ways is that they've carried that into some more difficult games after that run as well. But actually, Arsenal have gone away to Spurs, they've gone away to Manchester City, they've gone away to Aston Villa. They got a point from City, won those other 2. They've gone away to Newcastle. They've had a lot of those games that you would mark at the start of the season being very difficult. All right, they haven't been perfect. They find themselves 9 points behind, but those games are now out of the way. Do you not think that with Odegaard back, they can go on a run and get themselves back into the title race?
I actually don't. I don't, because it's all very well for you to cherry pick the games where perhaps they've done well. And look, I thought after that Man City game, when they drew 2-2 at Man City and they deserved the victory, I thought, this is it. This is something that I desperately don't want to happen. But Arsenal are actually going to win the league. Mikel Arteta, I think he's done a remarkable job. I really do, regardless of whether they win the league this year. We've seen in the past, even the outrageously gifted Jurgen Klopp team that competed with Man City year after year, they would have an off year, finish outside the Champions League spots even, but then go again strong the next year. It isn't an indictment of Mikel Arteta not being the right man for the job, simply because they are, in my opinion, aren't going to win the league this year. I think he is doing a remarkable job. I think they are a brilliant team, and they will come strong again next year. But I do think that losing at Bournemouth, for example, is unacceptable. Losing at Bournemouth in the way that they did as well.
And Man City have lost at Bournemouth as well.
Yeah, for sure. But they play by different rules. It's Manchester City don't need to be at the standard that Arsenal need to be at, because Manchester City are Manchester City. And Pep Guardiola is arguably the greatest to have ever done it, and certainly the greatest doing it at the moment. Arsenal are competing with that, so they need to be better than that. There is a track record where Manchester City will shine. But I don't think Manchester City are going to win the league either. I don't. I can't. Like at the beginning of the season, I said Arsenal will win the league and Manchester City will finish second. Off the back of these 11 games, I just cannot see a world where Liverpool aren't at least second. So something in my original prediction is wrong. So I think that Liverpool they've surprised me. But in Mohamed Salah, they have a player that is probably the best.
Liverpool were 5 points clear in February of both. When we look at last season,
yeah, they were, but there isn't a vulnerability to this Liverpool team. There really isn't. You know, when you think about where they should be, so you look at that defence, and you and I have spoken about the defence, and the brilliance of Konate is the example that we've used to say quite how good they are. The player that isn't even their best defender would be the best defender at most other clubs. Then you look at the midfield, and maybe you could see a chink in the armour in the Liverpool armoury. You say, oh, you know, they didn't get Caicedo. They missed out on Lavia. They are going to struggle to replace the engine room that served Jurgen Klopp so well. And suddenly they redefine Ryan Gravenberch. Yeah. He becomes one of the best players in the league. Curtis Jones, a beautiful footballer. He's silk, isn't he? He really is silk. Szoboszlai's not even getting in the team. Yeah. That's how good they are. And then up front, we don't need to have a conversation. In Mohamed Salah, they have probably the best player in the league.
I tell you what, with Liverpool as well, if you compare them to Arsenal, I just feel it's that strength in depth, isn't it? There's a few reasons for that.
Know-how is important.
I think you can also look at some of the transfer activity from Arsenal as well. Bringing in Raheem Sterling, it was a punt. That hasn't paid off. For having him as someone who was going to come on and replace the forward line, the form of Gabriel Jesus has hugely dropped off as well. So there are issues.
I know that Arsenal fans get slightly irritated with me when we talk about Kai Havertz because they know that I don't particularly like him and they obviously want him to succeed. But I think that I'd like to think that if we remove tribalism, most people can just agree on this. And I say the same things about Chelsea. Chelsea can't win the league, can't compete for the league if Robert Sanchez is the goalie. I believe that you cannot win a league if Kai Havertz is your number 9. You just can't win. You're not going to score enough goals. You're not going to have that cutthroat centre forward. But it is an amazing title race. There's going to be twists and turns to come. And I don't know, are you allowed to say this sentence? Arsenal are not in the title race at the moment. But that doesn't mean that they can't become in the title race in a couple of weeks' time. You know, results go a different way because this is.
So they are in the title race then?
No, they're
not.
You
can't be out of it then back in it. You can't.
But they were. But at the beginning of the season, I felt like they were going to win it, and things have happened since then that mean I can't think that anymore.
Are Chelsea in the title race?
No, Chelsea aren't in the title race at all. They're not. You can never win a title with Robert Sanchez as your goal.
Will Chelsea come into the title race?
I don't believe so. I don't think that we are. I don't think we are that team. Okay. I think that we're an excellent, exciting, young, prodigious team.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think they're very much in the top 4 race. I think they are pole position for the 4th spot.
It's Liverpool though, isn't it? Liverpool are the spanner. You know the established old two, the Man City, the Arteta versus Guardiola, Arsenal versus Man City. Arsenal finished second 3 years in a row. I felt like this was going to be
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row. Third time lucky. I thought it was going to go for them. But I'm delighted that I now don't think it's going to happen. But I just think I kind of went in. You know the game at Stamford Bridge.
I don't think it's as over as you're saying it is. So personally, I really don't think it is.
Who do you think is going to win the league?
No, just before that, I had one question for you, which was the thing about Manchester City that I'm finding really fascinating at the moment is we knew that they would struggle more without Rodri. I didn't think it would be to this extent.
No, they're in a crisis.
I mean, it's 4 defeats in a row, which any other club you could kind of go, wow, you know, that they're having a bit of a tough time. The standards set by Manchester City are unbelievable, and Pep's comments are quite interesting. He tends to do this, to be fair. It's not the first time he's done this, but they're quite interesting in the sense that he said, look, we've done it so many times now, maybe it's time for another team to go and
like
win
the Happy Flowers chat, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So the question I have for you is, do you think that injury to Rodri has seriously actually derailed Manchester City's chances of going on another run and their ability to go on a kind of run like that and actually has taken away their chances of winning the league this season?
Yes, but it's a double-edged sword. It's not just... So the Rodri injury combined with the fact that the transfers that they brought in have been under par. So it's not only Rodri out.
Well,
it's Mateus Nunes not being a good enough player. It's not only Rodri out. It's Mateo Kovacic not being a good enough player. It's both things. Calvin Phillips, you can bring him into it. The players that were supposed to be able deputies of a player like Rodri, back Rodri up, support Rodri, they've flopped.
And also, I think, you know, we need to pick out some of their players as well, who I feel aren't performing at the moment. Most notably, Phil Foden.
Phil Foden.
He has been miles off the pace really as well. And
I agree.
you know, if we were looking at Arsenal potentially, even, you know, at Chelsea, if we were looking at, let's say, Saka and Palmer, I think there would be a huge light shone on them and their poor performances. It doesn't quite feel as if that same criticism has been levelled
now,
at
though. It's
Foden.
coming now. The reason why in the past Phil Foden perhaps has been insulated from the criticism in a different way to maybe Bukayo Saka or other Chelsea players is because they always win. It's very difficult to highlight mistakes. It's why Pep Guardiola gets away with it when we talk about recruitment. Nobody really flags how many bad decisions Pep Guardiola makes in the transfer market because they win the league. Like, imagine Cole Palmer linking up with Erling Haaland. That's an error from Pep Guardiola. But it's very difficult to flag the error when they're winning the European Cup.
Because they keep winning.
Yeah,
because they keep on winning.
But now there's a real issue at Man City. And I know that for a lot of teams, sitting second in the league would be a dream. But on their scale, they are in a crisis. It's a crisis for them.
Yeah, it is. By the way, you asked me who I think will win the league. I think that by the end of the season, going on what I've seen so far, that Liverpool will win the league. But where I disagree with you is I don't think Arsenal are out of this yet.
But if you just look at the maths, fine. I agree that it's a bold statement. But the reason why I think it's a relevant statement is because they're 9 points. We're 11 games in, which means there's only 81 points to play for. So but there's literally 81 points to play for. Every time Liverpool win a game, Arsenal win, nothing changes. So you're searching for... Basically, Liverpool have the luxury of just matching Arsenal's results. If Arsenal drop points, Liverpool can drop points. They don't have to win every game. They literally have to match. And then they have the luxury of, even if they do slip, they still have a 9-point cushion.
They've got to go to City as well. They've got to play City twice. You know, that could change things.
They've played them in a couple of weeks, though. They'll beat them.
Yeah, it's a good time to play Man City, yeah.
Like, Mohamed
word.
Salah, in this you know he's got 10 goals, 10 assists in 11 games. He's become, we always knew that he was a dazzling goal scorer and had that ruthless pursuit of numbers that separated him. But Mohamed Salah has become something else. He's become a total team player, and he is a guarantee. You know, in terms of front of goal.
Just quickly, Joe, what's funny about that is that I know exactly what you mean. He's been really good in some instances. I think literally their first goal of the season was an assist from Salah.
Yeah, the Ipswich game.
But let's be honest, that game against Aston Villa, and it's breaking through. And I think it's Gakpo right in the middle going, lay it on a plate, and I love Salah because you know he's going to score. You know he's going to shoot.
You're
I
allowed
love
to
it.
do that. You're allowed to do that when you definitely score. There was a almost begrudging acceptance that he was going to score there. And when I say begrudging acceptance, I don't mean from me. I mean from Emi Martinez. There was an understanding that Salah,
we all know
cutting in
here.
from that side, it's like watching Jaws, man. The shark's going to bite the boat. There's nothing you can do about it. That's going to happen. So no, I do think, and do you know if he wins the league this year, by the way, Slot, I think it needs to go down in history as like a great achievement. I'm not saying it's a Ranieri-like achievement, but it's certainly a Conte-like achievement.
Yeah, that's what I would compare it to.
To dethrone Pep Guardiola at the expense of Mikel Arteta, that's going to be a real question for Arsenal fans. It's all very well to lose the league to Pep Guardiola, but losing the league to Arne Slot, it's perhaps less acceptable.
One more on this. If Arsenal end the season, they're not in the title race, or you know, of course they don't win the title, and they don't win any other silverware as well. What questions
I can answer that.
Should be asked about Mikel Arteta, do you think?
I can answer that really fairly, and it will come down to more specifics from you. So, for example, if Arsenal get to the semi-finals of the European Cup and end the season on 89 points and don't win the league, excellent season from Arteta. He's done everything within his power. They just haven't got over the line. The problem will be if Arsenal finish 4th and get knocked out of the European Cup in the last 16. Then I think people will start asking questions, unless he can win a trophy. You know, if he were to win another FA Cup, if he were to win a trophy, it could equalise those criticisms. But basically, it won't paint him in the most positive of colours, because what Arteta is building is 4 years in the making. What Slot is building is 4 months in the making, and that
it is for him. But I think that's a bit unfair on Jurgen Klopp. That's a bit unfair. He has built a good foundation for Slot to take over from.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't disagree with that, but the buck stops with Slot.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.